Hello, fellow writers. I'm Lewis. That over there is Tolkien, and you have found the Scripturient Society.
Hello, writers. Welcome back to your favorite writing podcast. My background is new and different. It's prettier. I don't know if anyone can tell if you guys are watching this on YouTube, but I'm very pleased. That one over there, whose background has always been beautiful with the pretty like starry forest background and then a whole beautiful bookshelf carefully organized, is Karissa Harlow, aka Catherine,
Hello.
aka Lewis. And I'm Ash O'Rourke, aka Tolkien. And there's also a puppy sleeping back there on my pillow.
Aw,
Isn't she
yay.
cute?
So
There's a
cute.
Ruby. Yeah.
Aw.
Nice. Missed all you guys because we did our last episode wasn't really a like normal Scripturient Society episode. We did our second annual Story Siren Studio Christmas party, which was delightful. And if you guys haven't listened to it, I know Christmas is over, but you still should. Carissa created a holiday Mad Libs for us to complete, but it was a bookish themed one, and it couldn't have gone better.
It was so fun.
The peak of
So proud.
entertainment. It was amazing.
Didn't go the way I expected, but it went even better. So
it went amazing. Sauron was involved. So were the Fae. Oh God, who all? Huckleberry Finn showed up to the party.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Elizabeth Bennet was there with her lizard husband. So Katie Grant from the Illuminae, exactly. Jem Carstairs.
Yeah.
So go check it out. It's not
party
something that you want to miss. It was a party. It was quite literally a party, and it was wonderful. But how'd your holidays go after that?
Good. Nothing too well. Okay, there. So my grandfather got the flu,
that's right.
and had to be hospitalized for pneumonia. He also had RSV. So it was, I mean, he's still in the hospital. He should be home by the time you guys are hearing this, but it was, I mean, there was a 24-hour period when the family was just like getting ready for him to die. And I was like, this feels not great. And it was a couple days before Christmas. And my dad's grandfather actually died, I think, on Christmas. So it's, just a fun family tradition, I guess.
That's not great.
But, yeah,
life and death, because also weren't you conceived on Christmas?
Around there, yes. That's my middle name. Hint, hint. But yeah, he's actually doing pretty well. He's doing better. He's alive.
Good.
He's good. My grandmother also got the flu, and she's like his primary caretaker, right? So there was we were like, we don't want him to go home to where either he's not being taken care of or she isn't taking care of herself because she has to take care of him. So
oh my gosh,
that's kind of why he was in the hospital for a while, but he is doing better. I think his cough, it was really bad for a couple days, and then it's kind of better. I had pneumonia once, and the cough is definitely the worst part, but if it's productive, it's usually a good thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's doing much better, which is good, but that's
stressful.
Fun. Yeah, he was in the hospital for Christmas, which sucked, but we wouldn't have been able to see him anyway because he was contagious. I mean, it was what it was. But then the rest of the family got together and we played some games, which was
fun.
And we played, what was it called? I think it was called All of Us. And it's kind of a trivia game, but it's for different generations. So you're supposed to have boomers, Gen X's, millennials, and Gen Zers on the same game. And then you have different cards for each generation to see who can answer which ones. And I discovered that according to this game, I am a millennial. Yeah. But according to the questions I could answer, I am a Gen Zer. And I am deeply uncomfortable with both of these things.
Wow. I was just wondering which ones which questions I would get right and which ones I wouldn't.
Yeah. Wow. The millennial is from 80 to 97. So I'm right on the brink.
Ooh, same.
And so a lot of the questions were from the 80s. And I'm like, I wasn't alive then. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, literally. I cut it right under the wire there.
And then some of the Gen Z questions were about rappers and TV shows that I have no idea what they are. So it's I'm in the middle. I don't know which card to pick.
Yep. Yeah. We're the middle children of the generations. It's so true.
It's so
and
weird.
Gen Z wants to be like, you're not Gen Z, and millennials want to be like, you're not a millennial. And it's like, you guys, I have
agree.
to be someone.
Here's the thing. I think kids from the 90s should get their own category. Yes. Because the way the technology just ramped up, it's if you grew up in 89 versus 95, it's so different. Versus 2001. And I know what dial-up is, but I never had
Yep.
a MySpace. Like
Yeah.
that's the weird situation I'm in. And I think
Yes.
that's a
Same.
special category of people.
I
So,
think so too. I am also in the exact same category, and I agree. I completely vote for a new category of just kids who were
yep.
born in the 90s.
Because really it's not age, it's what kind of environment you grew
It's
up in.
yeah, it's like experience, like cultural
Mm-hmm.
experience, which is why I typically associate myself with as a millennial if I had
Right.
to like,
If I
categorize
had to
myself because I
pick.
think I have more in common experience-wise,
Yeah.
but there's a lot that I don't have in common.
Exactly. And it is
Yeah.
funny too because on my mom's side of the family, we kind of split. So there are 8 cousins, and 5 of us are like in the technical millennial category, and the other
Hmm.
3 are Gen Zers.
Hmm.
And like the gap between us age-wise is so small, but the culture gap between us is so large.
Huge. That's crazy. Oh,
So
that's
it's just, I mean,
funny.
it was really fun. It was also weird because the other 4 cousins I have like weren't there because I don't live in town. So I was the only millennial in the family playing this game. And my team was like, sweet, we have one from every generation. And I'm like, I think that might be a handicap for you. You might not want to get too confident about that.
That is too
Um,
funny.
but it was fun. So
Ah,
yeah,
that sounds like a
ultimately
fun
a good
game.
day. Yeah,
Yeah,
ultimately good. And my grandfather is alive, and that is
that's
good.
amazing. It's excellent. It's gonna make
Yes.
the next question I was gonna ask sound really shallow, but I was gonna ask if you
Oh,
got presents, like what the coolest one you got was this year.
oh, I what okay, this is gonna sound so weird, but I love my bookshelves, right? I like to
Hmm.
make them all
Hmm.
nice and pretty, and I really like putting knickknacks on them. So if
Yes.
I go to a store and I see fun knickknacks, I really like them.
Yeah.
And my mom and I, like a month ago, had gone into Home Goods,
Hmm.
and there were these little mini globes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want a mini globe so much, but I didn't want to buy it because I didn't really have the
Yeah.
money. And
Yeah.
so she got me a mini globe. And also,
Oh.
this is the most obscure thing I've ever wanted. It's a little like statue of a balloon dog. You know, like the balloon animals, and it's a
Yeah, but it's
balloon
a
dog.
statue.
Yeah. And
That is
I
so
loved it.
random.
And I was like, I want it. So my mom got it for me in green, and now I have a little balloon animal statue.
That
And
is
it's
so
adorable.
cute. And there's absolutely no context behind that. You just saw it and were
Nope.
like, this pleases me.
Yep. It would
That is
go
so
nicely on my
funny.
bookshelves, and that's all that matters.
That
So,
is so cute. That's adorable.
yeah.
I got some cool knickknacks for my bookshelves from Hobby this year also.
Hmm.
Yeah, which are fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that like your favorite thing you got? We can
No, I got a
transition to you now.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, Ruby Tunes, wherever she is, my puppy was my
Ah,
Christmas
yes.
present from
That's
Javi.
right.
Aside from he picked me
That's
up a
right.
couple knickknacks the day after Christmas when he and Caleb went out shopping together. But
Mhm.
Ruby is my obviously my main Christmas gift, and so I'd
Yes.
have to say favorite because she's a living thing. Um,
She's alive.
because she's alive. But for gifts I actually received on Christmas, my mom got me a foot massager, and it's so nice. And I've been saying for months and months and months, I don't know what's going on. I know that people get older and they always complain, oh, my back, it hurts, my hips hurt, I'm getting old. And I'm like, listen, my legs and hips have hurt my entire life because they're messed up. Other than that, I have not felt the effects of age in that like physical
Mm,
way people complain about, which usually around now is when people start complaining
yeah.
about it. And I'm like, for real though, because you're still young. But my feet have been killing me for like
Hmm.
months. I don't know why. I don't know. Like, I probably should be wearing shoes around the house more so I can wear these special inserts I have for my leg problems.
Hmm.
So I don't know what's going on, but my feet have hurt so bad. And my mom got me a foot massager and it's so nice. So I'm just
Yay.
so happy about it. Oh, and my brother in law gave me a Dungeons and Dragons like starter set thing because I am DMing our next campaign,
Yay.
which I'm very intimidated by because and
That's so cool.
I didn't volunteer. I was hoping anyone else would volunteer because not because I don't want to DM, but because I don't have the time. And also
Mm,
because I don't know how to DM. Like usually when you play, like you can get by with like not knowing every rule because
right.
the DM will just correct you. And I'm
Right.
like, now I have
Now
to
that's my
correct
job.
you. It's my job to know all the rules. So if I don't know it, I'm gonna make it up, which is also within the responsibilities of the DM.
Dungeon Master.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, but I also have to finish reading The Three Musketeers, which is, by the way, a super freaking long book, although I'm really enjoying it, but super
Hmm.
freaking long.
Yep.
And then also have to finish planning the DM campaign because I've been doing like a bunch of research for it just to reacquaint myself with the rules because it's been so long since I played.
Yeah.
And now I have to, that I've done that, now I have to actually start crafting the campaign. And part of
Right.
me is like, maybe I should set it in the world of my one of my books and use this
Yes.
for research.
Oh my gosh. I would love that.
Right?
That sounds amazing. What a good idea.
I
As
think it
long
would
as you
be
can like adapt
fun.
the rules to it, that would be amazing.
Yeah. And are you gonna call in for it?
Yeah. If that's
yay.
not like technologically an issue, yeah, I'm excited.
Yay. Okay, cool. Because I think it would be super fun. And it's
Yeah.
gonna be a very small party if
Mhm.
if you don't call in because we have so few people who are trying to play. But I think it'll be fun. I think I'm gonna let
Mhm.
everybody just like do like the normal characters or whatever, and I'm just gonna kind of adapt the world of my book to fit with the D&D stuff. So
Mhm.
so everyone doesn't have to like, learn these like new things that are in my book.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a bit of a mishmash, but I think it'll be fun. So
Cool.
that was exciting.
Also, what an amazing idea for like game makers. Like just take books and do a Dungeons and Dragons like Harry Potter version or Dungeons and
Yeah.
Dragons Percy Jackson version or whatever. I mean,
Oh,
that
that's
probably
good.
already
I mean,
exists,
people
but
do. I don't know that I've heard of a Percy Jackson one. I feel, but surely like with all the quests and like monsters
yeah,
and stuff, like that's
you would think.
perfect. That'd be a
Some
perfect one
some
if someone
books are
hasn't done it.
just the worlds are so big that you can
Yeah,
totally do that. That would be
100%. I'm sure
awesome.
that there's Harry Potter ones, which
Yeah.
would be great. Um, yeah. But anyway, so I haven't had to DM. I've always gotten to play, and I was excited because I was going to be a fighter again because fighters just destroy in battle, like,
Mhm.
and you get extra weapons
It's
and
all
armor.
strength.
It's just all strength,
No
and for
wisdom, no insight,
none,
just
no. And I used to be a ranger because I like ranged weapons, and I still do
mhm.
prefer ranged weapons. But when I was the fighter, because someone else had picked what I wanted the last time in the last campaign I was in, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh my God, well, there doesn't need to be two of us. So I was like, fine, I guess I'll be a fighter. Ugh, and I so didn't want to. And then I was like, wow, I feel
This is
powerful.
amazing. I've never been so
Yeah,
strong in my entire life.
exactly. But now I'm just gonna DM and I'm gonna make everyone's life so hard.
I love it. I'm
It's gonna
excited.
be good. Yeah. Yeah. So start thinking up your character. I don't know what the
Yeah.
plan is. I think that we're planning Saturdays.
Okay, cool.
That's all I know. I don't know exactly when we're gonna start yet because the
Cool.
campaign's not done.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me
But
know.
anything else? I will. Did anything else exciting happen this week for you?
No, I don't think so. Good to, oh, it was also my mom's birthday.
Oh,
So
I saw
my
that.
my
I
dad and I
forgot to say happy
surprised
birthday.
her. So they're building a house and
Mm-hmm.
the concrete is down, like the foundation is now, it
Nice.
exists.
Heck yeah.
But they're kind of stalled now for holidays. So my dad like distracted my mom with like house planning, and I went out and got Chick-fil-A, and then I went out to the land and waited for them. And then they pulled up and my mom was like, there's someone on our land. And I'm just waving. I'm like, it's me. And then we
Oh,
had
that's
lunch
so
out there.
cute.
So that was fun.
That is so sweet. That's so exciting. Oh, I should text your mom and ask and your mom and dad and ask like what this process is. Because I got a quote
Yeah.
on moving the trees that are in the way of where we're gonna put the foundation.
Mhm.
But I feel like if I miss a step and I do something wrong, it's gonna be so insanely expensive to fix.
I
So
mean, they would love to talk about it because my mom is
excellent.
just so excited about it. She wants to talk about it all the time. And I'm like, I know everything you're telling me. I don't, there's nothing new.
I feel like I've already heard all this. Cool. I'll message her. And I meant to say happy
Yeah.
birthday, but I forgot. If you're listening, happy birthday, Mama Kim.
Yeah.
So,
But other than
um,
that, very normal week. I mean,
nice.
that was a lot for a week. It was holidays and
Yeah, it's a
stuff,
big
but
week. Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Javi says something that equated the week between, they called it the week between Christmas and New Year's, the gray week, where
Yes.
like there's no rules. There is no,
It doesn't, nothing exists. You don't
mm-mm.
exist. You're just kind of, flopping around in the world until the new
Yeah,
year.
exactly. It's true. And it's so weird. And
Hmm.
like I eat like 10 cookies a day. And I'm like, weight doesn't matter. Health isn't a concept until January 1st. And then I'll be good
Exactly.
again. But I'm like, all this leftover Christmas food can't go to waste. That'd be waste. I
Good
actually really
logic.
do hate wasting, which is part of that's actually what's really hard for me to get back in shape after the holidays is because I hate
Hmm.
wasting
You just
food.
want to eat it all.
Yeah. So
It
it
is
doesn't go to
like
waste.
that week between Christmas and New Year's is kind of, it has the same vibe as going to a school campus where there are no students. Like something just feels
Yeah.
kind of off, but you
Yes.
also kind of love it.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. And I have this
Yeah.
week off, which is amazing. I might even get to write some, so I'll talk about that later. But
Hmm.
I guess we could get into book recs. Do you have any book
Yes.
recs?
Finally, I do. And I'm
Ooh.
so excited about them. So the first one I'm going to talk about, I think I'm going to do a Catherine's Corner on it. So I'm not going to talk about
Ooh.
it too much, but it's called Never Saw Me Coming by Vera Kurian,
Hmm.
Kurian. Highly recommend. It's not fantasy. It's like a thriller murder mystery kind of thing. And it's probably one of the best examples of new adult I've ever read. Like it felt solidly not young adult, not either one masquerading as the other. Like it felt solidly a new adult book, which was very cool.
I like that.
I mean, it was
What's the
kind of what you
genre?
would, it's like a thriller. So
Oh,
essentially
you said
it's
that.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like this
Sorry.
college campus and in DC, and they have a scholarship program for psychopaths. So if you're a psychopath, you get a free ride to the school as long as you participate in some studies and trials around psychopathy. And so the main character is a psychopath, and she essentially went to this school to hunt down and kill this guy that like sexually assaulted her when she was younger. And for the past like 5-6 years of her life, she has just been plotting to murder him. And but like also there are 7 psychopaths in the program and someone starts killing them. And it's so good. I've never been so intrigued by a premise that really paid off and like
Yeah.
it was what it said it was going to be.
Wow.
And
That
it
was
was so
bold.
good. Yeah. It's
Wow.
a lot, but it's so good. And it's just no one is moral. And so a lot of the like normal rules of like decent behavior were just like not applying. And I was kind of into it. It was just kind of nice to like have like, I don't even know if it's morally gray. They're just villains that can act like heroes. And
Oh,
it's
so like
very good.
bad humans, so like shitty humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it was amazing. And I would highly recommend if you are in the market for a non-fantasy book. I feel like if you like fantasy, you would like this one because it has kind of a similar vibe. Like there's the same level of kind of like violence and like themes, I feel like, that ends up in
Mm-hmm.
fantasy a lot. So if you're looking for something not fantasy as like a break, I think this would be a good one. It's very fast paced too. I read it in like one sitting. So
Oh, nice.
it's very good.
That is
Mm-hmm.
the opposite of my book rec, which is
Oh
The
no.
Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas,
Uh
which I've said, I
yeah.
think, 3 or 4 times now because I like saying his name. And I don't care if I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying it right or not. But this book is so freaking long. Oh my
It
God,
is
you
long.
guys. The audiobook was like 24 hours, and that wasn't even on like one like normal speed. It was like on sped up. So I'm now listening to it. I have been
Oh.
slowly increasing as my brain gets used to the speed. I've been slowly increasing the speed of the narration in this audiobook. It is
Mm-hmm.
currently at 2.6 times the normal speed. So it's a
Nice.
lot, and it probably sounds like gibberish to
Yeah.
everybody else. But I really
Mm-hmm.
also I'm disappointed because I also really like the book. It's weird. I did not think I was gonna like it because it's so big and hefty. And usually when it comes to the big hefty classics, a lot of it is just filler and boring, and I'm like not here
Mm-hmm.
for it. This is actually like really fun. It reads like a lot more modern of a book. It has like a kind of modern sense of humor too.
I
Um,
do love him as a writer. Count of Monte Cristo is also really
oh, he
wait,
did
that's
Count of Monte
him.
Cristo.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's
I
him.
haven't read it.
It's also
Um,
good.
but he's very talented. It's so well written.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just saw that I got a notification. I've been playing Raft, and it looks like one of our friends just hopped on and is playing Raft now. Good for them.
Nice.
Anyways, it's a very fun game. But yeah, so that's my book rec, Three Musketeers. Do know it's gonna take a really long time. And
But worth it. But
worth
fun.
it. Yeah, but then there's a lot of inexpensive audiobooks. Like I got this audiobook for $2.99, and I got my actual hard copy because I like to have at least a hard copy as well if I have to listen to the audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it off thrift books for like $2 or $3. So it's good. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's so long. I feel like if I were alive when the book first came out, I would have been like a rabid novelist. Like I would have been telling everybody about this book. I'd have been so excited to read it, and I would have loved that
Mm-hmm.
it was so long. Nowadays I'm spoiled with options, I guess, for shorter
Yeah.
books. And also the opposite of spoiled in regard to time. Like I'm not just
Yeah.
some like leisurely lady who can like just sit by the window and read. So
Right.
audiobooks. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there's my book rec and also some complaints thrown in. You're welcome.
Oh, nice. Okay, I do have a second one that I want to talk about. It is book 4 in a series, so take that into
Ooh.
account. So I think in October I mentioned I started reading Temple of the Winds
Mm-hmm.
by Terry Goodkind, which is in the Sword of Truth series. And I really liked the first 3, but this one was just so good. I only took a break because I did NaNoWriMo and I was like it's like an 800-page book.
Yeah.
But it was also so good. So if you guys are looking for an adult fantasy series, I would really highly recommend the Sword of Truth series because Temple of the, I don't even know how to describe it without spoiling the other 3 books, but it was amazing. And this will sound weird, but I have a count going. It is one of 4 books I can think of with a sex scene that is actually useful to the plot and character development.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like that's a good count to have, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, to know which books
it's only
it's
4.
worth it.
Yeah.
It's only 4. Yeah, sounds about right.
And I was like impressed, and I was like, why am I so impressed with this? But it was just really well done. Terry Goodkind is so good at like foreshadowing and giving you all of these details that seem very extraneous, and then they all come together at the end. Because like it's an 800-page book. It's like Three Musketeers. Everything it's so long, but everything still matters, and it's still really good.
Yeah.
So I also love that one.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was very good. Cool. Also, apparently Terry Goodkind died in 2020.
Oh,
and
what?
I feel like I should have known that before. And
oh, wow,
it's in the back of my book. And I'm like, I could have sworn I bought this book before 2020, but apparently I didn't, because that would have been weird and predictive. Not the Twilight Zone or something. But anyway, I'm becoming a pretty big Terry Goodkind fan. I've been just
I know you keep mentioning his name.
Been slowly going through this series since like high school, and like a book every couple years. And I don't know. It's definitely high fantasy. There's like a lot of violence and a lot of like graphic stuff in it. So don't go into it expecting something lighthearted. It's very, I don't know if dense is the right word. It's a lot.
Intense.
But it also all really comes together and like has meaning. So yeah, I approve.
Aw, fun. Well, I like that.
Yeah. But
any other book recs?
That's it.
Okay.
No.
What about our word of the week?
All right. Our word of the week is Panjandrum. Panjandrum. Pangandrum. And you would think this is an adjective. It's not. It's a noun. It's a person who has or claims to have a great deal of authority or influence, an important person, or one who believes he is so.
Immediately thought, oh, my husband's a Panjandrum. Immediately.
Maybe. Immediate association.
Panjandrum.
But so, like,
Laura's a Panjandrum.
Yeah.
My cat.
Mm-hmm.
Ruby is not really a Panjandrum, but she is getting up to come over here for some. Oh no, she's just laying down closer to me on the bed. So cute. I like it. Panjandrum. That's useful.
Panjandrum. So
sounds like palindrome.
It does.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like, because of the drum, it sounds like humdrum, which makes it feel weird that it's a noun.
Panjandrum.
Yeah, Panjandrum. So
oh my god, he's so Panjandrummy. I loved it. I love to change the type of word it is.
I know.
But probably not the podcast, but though I realize our listeners will probably hate that I do that every episode. This is not the audience for screwing that up.
That's okay. I'm sure some of them. I am baffled at the number of people on TikTok, like authors I follow, that claim to be really bad at grammar and really bad at spelling and don't care about either. And I'm like, this is my whole life. I love both of those so much.
I feel like it's important to not be bad at it if that's your thing. But
I think some of it is like a joke.
Intentionally mess it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're like, I don't know how to use commas. I'm like, I feel like you shouldn't say that to readers, but okay.
Yeah. That better be a joke or I'm concerned.
Yeah. Question mark?
Oh, that's so funny. That's me watching so much on TikTok.
Yeah, but I mean,
question mark?
Yeah, not sure if this is supposed to be funny. And then so I posted something. I posted a video about like antagonists versus villains or whatever, or protagonists or whatever, because we had a couple episodes on that a while back. Yeah, and someone responded in what I assume was a joke, but I'm not sure. Where they said some people don't pay attention in their English classes, and the there was the wrong there. It was THERE, and I was sitting there. I was like, "Is this a mistake? Or is it a joke?" Right? So then someone else commented, "I see what you did there," and used the wrong there. And so I was like, okay, now I'm into it. now I'm pretty sure it's a joke.
now it's evidently a joke.
Yeah.
Sybil, this cat keeps just jumping up on the desk.
Just a tail.
Girl, could you not do this? Hey, don't mess with the cords. I swear she never gets up here. And now just because I'm recording up here. She's literally shaking the whole desk every time she
moves. You're like wobbling.
I know, I'm wobbling thanks to the cat. Anyways, should we get into our theme for this episode?
Yes, we are talking about the forced proximity trope,
I love this trope.
I
Who
do
doesn't love
too.
this trope?
It's so cheesy and it shouldn't work, but it works every time.
Yeah, every
So
single time.
there's
I
no
have
bad version.
if you guys are unsure what forced proximity means, it means exactly what it sounds like. It's when two characters are forced by circumstances outside of their control to be close to each other or to have to work together, either work together, live together, sleep in the same bed. This is where the, oh no, there's only one bed joke comes in. That's forced proximity. Yep. I looked up a bunch of examples to see if I missed any of them. Arranged marriage is a forced proximity trope. Fake marriage. Elevator fic, which is apparently when they're stuck on an elevator together. Mail order bride, snowed in. Soulmates can even be forced proximity depending on how much you let
they have
fate
that
play a role.
draw.
Yeah, exactly. Huddling for warmth. A lot of survival type stories have this forced proximity trope as well. Stranded on a desert island. Anyways, so these are just some of the more popular forced proximity tropes. I will say it's often seen in conjunction with the enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers trope, especially rivals to lovers when it comes to contemporary fiction. You guys, basically every Hallmark movie has a forced proximity trope.
Oh no, my car broke down. I can't go back to town. I'll have to stay at this farmhouse with this country boy.
Yes, exactly. Or I'll have to stay in this country inn with these country people. And it can be romantic. It usually is, but it doesn't have to be. A lot of those Hallmark movies, the forced proximity trope, it's so funny because it's her usually one person, a woman, who's forced into proximity with an entire town and other culture. That's kind of Hallmark's whole thing. But a lot of contemporary books, like I think The Love Hypothesis and The Hating Game. I haven't read these, but I was looking them up, and apparently these also have the forced proximity trope. Those are romances. A lot of contemporary romances, not like romance novels with shirtless men on the cover. Those I'm sure that those have that too. But when you look up examples, you'll see that it's a super, super common trope in contemporary romance.
And I don't know, I think the great thing about forced proximity too is that it does really go with any genre you want it to. Something like enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers, they even have different names depending on which genre you're writing in, because enemies and rivals are different things.
They are.
But forced proximity, you can have in a fantasy world two people snowed in somewhere as part of the plot, or like in a sci-fi, if you're stranded on a ship together in space, that's still forced proximity. And like a murder mystery, I feel like a lot of murder mysteries are where you are for some reason trapped in a building. Horror books are often people are trapped in a haunted building or something like that. So I feel like there are just so many versions of it, and I think that's one of the reasons it's great. And another reason it's great is because it's a trope that really inherently contributes to plot instead of taking away from plot.
It does. And it also gives it kind of justifies certain plot points, if that makes sense. If you have, especially when you use it to further a friendship or romantic relationship or whatever, if two characters don't get along, they are not going to inherently want to spend time together. So unless you create some sort of method of forced proximity, then realistically, it doesn't make any sense for them to keep running into each other or seeing each other or hanging out together. So if you have characters who really don't like each other, forced proximity is an excellent tool to force them to spend time together, get some of the fun I hate you banter, and then they get to kind of see, the inner part of the other person and see that they actually have some things in common, that they have some things that they can respect, or maybe they have things that they hate even more, but they see on the inside those things also. So regardless, but when you have characters who don't get along, it doesn't make sense that they would hang out together unless there's some kind of outside force acting on them, which is forced proximity.
Right. And it can be like nature in a snowstorm, or, high school where you have to work on a group project together, or magic or fantasy where you're on the run and this is the only person that can help you, or you're trapped together at an inn and that kind of stuff. So
a lot of crime shows will have partners. They'll have to partner up. Castle has this, NCIS does this, where, you don't always get to, pick those things, I would assume. At least in the shows, they don't get to pick their partners. They get assigned people to work with. And so in any sense, I guess coworkers could be forced proximity, depending on how closely they have to work together.
I think, too, a good example is boarding school, especially, which again, fantasy, real world, sci-fi, whatever, especially if there's for friendships, if you're roommates and you kind of have to get along with someone because you have to room with them, and then they kind of become your best friend. And also if it's like a boarding, like in Harry Potter, I don't know that that's like forced proximity, but the fact that
A
Ron and
little
Hermione
bit.
spend so much time together because of the school, I think
Because they're at a
is,
boarding
part
school.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I guess
Mhm.
technically, all the army boys also have forced proximity with each
Yeah,
other, which is probably why they're all so close. It's scary.
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, it does work really well with friendships too. It's kind of like the more
Yeah.
time you spend with someone, the more you just inherently grow to care about them.
Yeah.
And so you're more
It's
willing to
true.
risk your life for them or defend them or whatever if it's in like an army situation. And then also to just maybe befriend them in a normal scenario like a boarding school.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to see this more, not just with romances, although I do love forced proximity. I mean,
Mhm.
I almost never don't like forced proximity. But I'd like to see it with more friendships too. Because
Mhm.
I think it's good for people to see that just because you don't hit it off with someone automatically doesn't mean that you don't have great friendship potential there.
Mhm.
Because it's really easy to judge a book by a cover, and that's become so normal that we do. But I think that books are a great way to kind of like shine a light on the things that we do as humans that actually don't make that much sense. So I think
Mhm.
forced proximity with friends, or potential friends in books is a great idea, and I don't think it's used as much. I coincidentally am doing it in the book that I'm writing now, so it sounds like I'm talking myself up, but I don't think I've ever done it before. I thought about
Yeah.
forced proximity because you were like, "Hey, what topic should we do?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"Well, I'm actually working on this," and it's funny because the forced proximity, it's not even with the main character. It's with two
Yeah.
side characters who they
Oh,
kind of have this other subplot going on. It's not
yeah.
romantic at all.
Yeah.
It's like a
It's still
much
aw.
older dude and a much younger woman, and they get partnered up. They have to like they're assigned the same project. They're two like
Mhm.
agents or whatever. They do not get along. But I have this plan that they will maybe hopefully get along by the end of the book because they have
Nice.
no choice but to work together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I
it's
just I love
interesting.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it also
Have
provides, like you
you
said, so much plot, so much
Yes.
material for plot.
It's gosh, it's so great. Have you I think a good example of this. I haven't actually watched the show, but have you seen Wednesday?
No,
The
although my entire family has and loves it.
Okay, so I think from what I've heard about it, when it's about Wednesday Addams, right? And she
Mhm.
is forced to room with a girl that's like her polar opposite, like all sunshine and everything is great and I have a positive attitude, and then they become friends
Yeah.
because like they're forced into a roommate situation. I
Yeah.
do love that trope so much. I think a
Is
lot of
it because
times
it's
forced
what I did to
proximity
you?
maybe, but it works. Obviously, I liked it before that.
Exactly, exactly.
I do think forced proximity is used a lot in romances. Again, love it. But it is great with
Mhm.
friendships because there isn't as much like pressure or even maybe manipulation in a friendship scenario.
Yeah.
It's like you're not necessarily getting anything out of it that's, iffy
Yeah,
in that situation. So I think it's just so much purer and really fun to see. So I
I
think
agree.
I also recommended a book a while back called A Carne in which this happens.
Mhm.
And again, any kind of like boarding school scenario, I think that's great. I don't know if did Harry Potter start it or did Harry Potter capitalize it on it. I just
The
think that
boarding
the
school
boarding
thing,
school
I don't
thing is
know.
cool.
Yeah, I
So,
love the boarding school thing, and I never
mhm.
put it together, but it is because of the forced proximity.
Yep.
And also because it's like from like the total like removal of other elements in
Hmm.
their normal day-to-day life, which is just an interesting effect on humans,
Yeah.
especially kids.
Hmm.
Feels a little bit Lord of the Flies-ish. That was forced
Yeah.
proximity.
It
Hey.
was. That's right. And that's not
Uh,
romantic at all or positive.
mm-mm. No, and they did not become closer friends. Well, some
Nope.
of them did, and then most of them didn't.
Yep.
And wow, was that
It is
in
because like I always forget who is who after it's been a while. Is Jack the main character? No, Jack is the pretentious guy. Um Simon is the one with who's the main
with the
character?
glasses?
Ralph.
Oh,
Ralph.
Ralph. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ralph and Piggy wouldn't have been friends otherwise. But
No.
at the end, like spoiler, after Piggy has died, Ralph is like, kind of talking. He's like, Piggy was like my best friend here
Yeah.
because they had the most similar morality and view on how to handle things.
Yeah.
And that never would have happened in the normal real world. And so
Never. Yeah.
after all of the awful things that happened, there was still something good in
Yeah.
this friendship blossoming, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's
Yeah.
funny. I think it's the same. I think it's kind of similar thing happens when people go away to college and they have like their college friend groups. It's a
Hmm.
lot of people who maybe they wouldn't have been friends with inherently naturally, but you're all kind of forced together and I mean, if you're all away from home, I guess it depends how far
Hmm.
you're going to school away from home and your friends that you did have, then
Right.
you kind of you make friends with people you might not have otherwise made friends with, not because they're not great, but because you just like wouldn't have sought each other out.
Right.
And that's the great thing about forced proximity is no one has to seek anyone out. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't want to be with someone, you still have to. That's the
Yeah.
forced part. Serpent and Dove, back to romantic example, Serpent and Dove does this with
Mm-hmm.
a sort of fake / arranged marriage type. It was not even like a fake marriage. And that's not too much of a spoiler because that's what the whole plot is on. But
Yeah.
it's a very tense marriage. And they don't like each other. And I've said this before. I think that Serpent and Dove is the best example, like for speed of burn, for a
Yeah.
forced proximity enemies to lovers romance.
Mm-hmm.
I think usually those books they feel cheaper because the romance feels really sped up. But nah, they really took their time continuing to hate
Yeah.
each other. And the forced proximity wasn't just like, oh, we immediately see the good in the other. It was like, now I'm even closer to the things that I hate about you, which
Yeah.
should
I
happen
hate you
because
even more.
I hate you even more. Exactly. I think that's the other thing too about forced proximity. And this is, I think, why Hallmark movies kind of cheapen it. It feels like they very quickly are not annoyed with the other person anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I feel like it's a spectrum, like not a spectrum. I feel like it's a process. Like I feel like forced proximity means you hated each other before, in this situation where you hate each other,
Mm-hmm.
not just kind of rivals. You hated each other before, forced proximity. Now you hate each other even more. You're going to keep hating each other. Then you're going to start noticing new things you hate about the other person. And then slowly you're going to start noticing some things that aren't maybe so bad. Maybe you'll hate them a little
Right.
bit less. Then you notice some more things and then you might even end up liking them. But it's a
Yeah.
whole up and down process. And when you skip a step on the way, it feels very cheap. So,
Yeah. I agree. That is kind of the danger of forced proximity. You don't want it to become too far too fast
yeah.
because people do have flaws. And if you're forced into a situation, even if you like the other person, I think the flaws come out first
Yeah.
because you're stressed, because you probably don't want to be there. And so your positive qualities aren't going to be the first things to show
No.
their heads to their faces.
Yeah.
And so I was going to say rear their heads and
Oh, there you go.
it's split.
I like it. Just make up a new one.
Yeah. So I do think a good example of this too is if we're talking about like the arranged marriage, fake marriage thing, is
Mm-hmm.
the Mirror Visitor series
Mm-hmm.
that I love and I've talked
Yes.
about
No
before.
kidding.
Yeah. And it's like they have this arranged marriage, and you go a significant percentage through the series where they are still like, you are so annoying. I can't believe I have to do this. We just need to like, bare minimum here to get through it. And then we can go our own ways kind of thing.
Yeah.
And after a very long time, it turns into something else. And very naturally, because they do realize like this person is more aligned with me, maybe morally, than these other people. And maybe we
Yeah.
work well together because we are so different, but we're also the same in certain ways. And I
Yeah.
do think you tend to hate people the most when they remind you of yourself a little bit.
I've heard
Like
that too.
your own flaws are more annoying in other people than, of course,
Mm-hmm.
in yourself or than other people's flaws, because I think we kind of feel like we have a right to them, but other people don't. And
Yeah.
so the more similar you are, the more you'll probably get along well in a friendship or a relationship, but it's also going to be kind of a bumpy road at the beginning. So
Yeah.
I do think that like an arranged marriage, sometimes that can be a good route to go where they're maybe
Yeah.
too similar, but different enough that they work well as a team so that they have something to realize, but there's also that reasonable conflict up front.
I agree. And sort of
Yeah.
on the flip side, if it's two characters who already know each other or know of each other pretty well, like people who've grown up in the same town and like know pretty well about the other person and still don't like them, if you too quickly make them force proximity and then you too quickly make them get over it, it kind of calls into question their judgment entirely, which is not the
Yeah.
goal, because it's like, okay, well, if that's all it took for you to realize that you're in love with the other person, what kind of judgment do you have that your readers can trust for anything? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do
You can
we
just
know
flip
that,
like that.
exactly? So it's actually doesn't look great for your characters as people.
Mm-hmm.
It makes them look kind of untrustworthy to have them just flip a switch, especially when it's been someone who they had actual reasons for not liking, because those reasons don't go away. Maybe they become less glaring or they find out like the good outweighs the bad. But if it's
Mm-hmm.
someone they already didn't like, for valid reasons, those reasons shouldn't go away. But I feel like that's kind of a different situation than, like you were saying, as someone who's more like you, because I feel
Yeah.
like in those
It can be
situations,
either one.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I feel like if it's a character who's already kind of like another character. I feel like in that situation, they probably don't know each other that well to begin with, or else they'd already know all of that. So those are
Right.
probably, that situation probably occurs more with people who are more near strangers than people
Mhm.
who already know each other.
Yeah, I think too, you're saying it calls into question how trustworthy they are. I think it also calls into question how real any feelings they develop are if it goes too
Yes.
fast. Because if it's like, we're snowed in here for one night and at the end of the night they think they're in love, that's,
Yeah.
I think that might just be like a certain form of Stockholm syndrome. Are you
Sorry.
good? No, you're
Yeah, I'm
good.
good. Just Ruby woke up and she's gonna go pee on everything if she doesn't go immediately go outside.
Okay.
Are you doing anything too? Okay, never mind. She can just pee. She'll just pee and I'll clean it up later. Hobby can't take her out. He's gaming. He's like in the middle
Cool.
of a cutscene or something. All right, fine. Pee everywhere.
Free
Sorry, you were
reign.
saying. I did not
No,
mean
you're
to
good.
interrupt you.
If they fall in love after like one night, it kind of feels like Stockholm syndrome or something that's going to fade once they're gone. Like they're essentially just emotionally attaching to each other because of the necessity of the situation, not because of anything real. And I assume that's not what you want to do. Maybe you do. Maybe you're going for something like that. But if you're going for, I want to showcase that these characters actually do get along really well and work really well together, then you want to give it somewhat of a slow burn at least, so that readers can feel like everything that comes out of that is coming naturally and not as just like a survival strategy.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think that's the other thing about forced proximity. A lot of it can feel like survival if it's not done right instead of like genuine feelings, which is exactly what you're saying. Forced proximity is actually kind of tricky, I feel like, to do well. But I feel like it could still be more utilized. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, there's only one bed. Oh, we're stuck in a room together. It can just be, like you said, like the boarding school thing, which is still forced proximity. And the Hallmark thing, where someone's like stuck out of their depth in a town they know nothing about. Still forced proximity, but maybe not to the level of intensity as like
you
Serpent and
still get like a
Dove.
break from the person, so you
Yeah.
can kind of process. And then like in the Hallmark scenario where they talk to other people and they're like, oh my gosh, he's so nice, he's such a good guy, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess maybe.
Yeah,
Like that
exactly.
can be a fun element to add to, where they get some time away from each other but they're forced to work together for an hour every day or something like that, so that they get to know each other while they're together and when they're apart.
Hang on. What?
It's okay.
Did she throw up? No? She was chewing on my yoga ball. Sorry.
It's okay. They do that.
Yes, they do. She chews on everything. Once again, hang on. Let me write it down. Okay, sorry. Continue.
Good. I'd made my point.
Oh, you
What
made
was
your
I saying?
point.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if I have any other points. I was trying to think if I have any other points about forced proximity. I like it.
I know. I like it a
I'd
lot.
like
Let's
to see
see.
more of it.
I do think too, it happens a lot in well, I guess with forced proximity, it can either be the premise or it can be an element of the book. And I do think it works differently that way too, because I think a lot of TV shows do this, where like they'll have one episode where people are snowed in or where they have to be together in one place.
True.
And then it just kind of contributes to the relationship developing, as opposed to being the entire premise of the relationship.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess you would want to decide, if you're doing forced proximity, is it the entirety of the book? Is it, I get the sense that's kind of what Serpent and Dove is. Is it an arranged marriage? Is it kind of the entire premise? Or
it's largely the premise, yeah.
Yeah. Or is it like one, a couple chapters, and then that just contributes to the overall relationship or whatever.
Yeah,
and so
I agree.
You want that arc to go maybe a little faster if it's just one element. It's going to be less of a slow burn in that moment, because of course it's only part of the story. But it I don't know, I guess it would just work differently in those ways.
Falling Kingdoms is an example, I guess, of there's forced proximity between a couple different characters a few different times in the first book, but it's by no means is it the premise. It's just a plot device. And it's great because they still hate each other, because it's just like very, very brief moments of like, this guy captures this girl and he wants to turn her over and he hates her and she hates him. But they have this crazy chemistry too. So you're like, ooh, as the reader, you're like, I want to see more of this and see what happens.
Stay together a while longer.
Exactly. But it's like 20 minutes or something in the book, but it's enough for like, you get to see the chemistry, but the characters are like, I still actively hate you. And it's like, this is fun. So we're going to get to see you guys keep hating each other. And that hatred is going to impact your decisions in the future. And then hopefully we get more forced proximity in the rest of the series. I haven't gotten to finish it yet, but I've heard it's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot you can do with it. I
I feel
agree,
like
though. You should know
too.
what you want to do. If it's a premise or is
Yeah.
it a plot point?
Also, you could do a forced proximity that goes on like the negative arc where they actually hate each other more when they leave. And then
Yes, I would like
that
to see that.
contributes like anyway, like I could totally imagine, especially in certain fantasy scenarios where two people are trapped together and one is manipulating the other the whole time, and then they get out and the other one realizes that they were being
Mm-hmm.
manipulated, and now their hatred is so much deeper,
Yeah.
and so much more personal, especially if
Yep.
it's like a war enemy that they had not really met before then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of romances start that way, but you
They
could
do.
also just continue along the line of this is why we are enemies.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
Well, I mean, Alina versus the Darkling, they start out, kind of on friendly, decent terms, and they're stuck at the Little Palace together in Shadow and Bone.
mm,
And then she leaves and learns other things about him, and then, that ends up being kind of hate on hate. Well, he's deeply fascinated by her, and they have this weird, like, kind of, they still have a bit of this forced proximity thing going on because they have this weird bond where, like, he can, like,
yeah.
enter her dreams and stuff. So they do still have that weird forced proximity bond, but that's an example of they were friends and went to enemies because
Mhm.
of it, because she got to see more of he's evil.
Yeah. Well, now I'm thinking, are Voldemort and Harry Potter forced proximity?
Yes, I think so.
And
Because the
so, like that
Horcrux
enemy
thing,
idea, yeah, that
I
the
think
enemy
so.
idea is pretty cool. Maybe we should lean into that a little
I
more
think we
in
should.
books.
I mean, these are
Yeah.
two very iconic villains and
Yeah.
hero villain relationships. So I think lean into that, you guys.
Yeah, that seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially, so I do have in my series, this isn't going to be a huge spoiler, but there is a point where some of the enemies are trapped together and they're not allowed to kill each other. So it's just like there's like this magic involved where they can't kill each other like
Uh-huh.
actively.
Uh-huh.
And if you're in a situation like that, I do think that dynamic is also very interesting. And they don't come out the other side, not enemies anymore, but
Yeah.
they're in this situation that kind of they can't help but like reveal things that they're not supposed to reveal, because what else do you
Uh-huh.
do if you can't
Yeah.
like attack and you're not going to be friends?
Yeah.
So I think something like that is good too, where if you put some kind of magical or otherwise some kind of limitation on them where they can't actually do the thing that you would naturally do in that situation, probably easier with magic than in
Yeah.
any kind of real world. But if you
Yeah,
are trying to do a
probably.
fantasy version, I think that would be a good way to do it.
I agree.
um, do you think
Oh, my book has
what?
forced proximity. I just
Yeah,
realized
it
because
does. The
these
one I read.
yes, exactly. I
Mhm.
guess I'll call it a spoiler, although it's not super, but TM, it's my idea. Not that you guys can do it in a million different ways. But these characters have to wear bracelets that basically are magical and don't let them leave each other.
Mhm.
So they have to
Yep.
like can't like run away. One of them can't run
Yeah.
away from the other. So which is also forced proximity. Haha. Apparently
Yeah.
I like forced proximity.
So
Weird.
many elements. It's so many
Hmm.
versions of it. Like with the idea of magic being involved, maybe even science if you're doing a sci-fi or something,
Hmm.
with technology, like some kind of like they're distant from each other physically, but somehow are mentally still in each other's heads. I think that would count
Yeah,
as a forced proximity because
I think
you
so.
have that kind of limitation on leaving them behind essentially,
Yeah.
and they're kind of always there.
I agree.
So,
I think it's like any unwanted connection that one or both parties can't get rid of. I feel like that
yeah.
counts as forced proximity.
Do you think it's still forced proximity if the person forcing the proximity is one of the people in the situation? So like the Darkling, right? He's kind of
Hmm.
forcing the proximity because he wants to train Alina.
I think it's still, I mean, I think
Yeah.
maybe it's if the protagonist is the one who the proximity is
Mm,
being forced on. I think
yeah.
it still counts as forced proximity.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that makes sense. But so many ways to do it. So
I
many
know there is.
elements.
Yeah, I love
I
it.
didn't actually realize that until now. I want to see more like Voldemort Harry style enemies linked mentally. That seems really
That
cool.
sounds stressful, but yeah, you're
Yeah.
like, give me more of that intense stress, hatred,
Yeah.
forced proximity,
You you
enemies
all
with a
you all
weird
thought this was gonna
connection.
be an episode about romance, and it is not.
It's not
Psych.
at all. Yeah, absolutely psych. And I'll be honest, when you were like, hey, what do you want to record on today? I was like, you were like tropes. You suggested tropes. And I was like, how about forced proximity? Had no idea where I was going to go with this at all. It's
Yeah.
just like, I like that trope. I wonder
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, let's analyze why we like it.
Yeah,
I like it because it puts people into situations that can never actually happen and forces tension. I don't
I
know.
agree. I like it because
Yeah.
it's excellent for plot, for character development. Um, it's just plain fun. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much for everything that we've said about it has been, I don't think
Yeah.
we've said any cons, only
Yeah.
pros. The forced proximity trope is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. The
So
only really, it's not really con, it's just a way to do it wrong, is make sure that if you're doing a romance, give it some slow burns
give
so that
it
it
a
doesn't
slow
feel like the
burn.
characters are untrustworthy.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Which is just a word of cautionary advice. It's not
Yeah.
even a problem with forced proximity. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you do it right, like in Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin,
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. It's the most amazing, like, slow burn romance
Yeah.
ever. I'm big fan of that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So many ways to do it. And I like that you can use it in all genres. And then it comes in so
I
many
like that
forms.
too.
Because if you like a love triangle, there's really only so many ways to do a love triangle. Of course, everyone does it differently, but it still kind of takes very similar shape.
Yeah.
If you like enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, they all take very similar shapes, but forced proximity has so many variations. Like I said, the mental link, the physical link, you can be in any kind of genre. It can be nature's fault, it can be magic's fault, it can be the fault of one of the people in the
Yeah.
pair that is forcing it. I just think there's so many directions to go. So if you like it, as a writer, you could do it so many different ways. You can just have forced
Yeah.
proximity in all your books and none of them will be the same.
Yeah. It's true.
So
Do it in thrillers.
it's
I
very
think The
cool.
Cabin, I don't remember who it's by. It's the author who got really famous from her books were on Wattpad originally. I
Oh,
forget.
I don't know who this is.
Natasha something. Natasha Preston, I
Oh,
think. No, let me
you could
look
be
it up.
right. I don't know.
The Cabin. Hang on. Sorry, guys.
Water break.
Was I right? Yes, Natasha Preston. Okay, so
Nice.
The Cabin is forced proximity. I think a couple of her other stuffs are forced proximity as well. Oh, she's got one called The Cellar, definitely forced proximity. So those are all, they're not exactly horror, they're not exactly crime. They are really true thrillers,
Mm-hmm.
and like psychological thrillers. And she's so excellent at using the forced proximity trope. And I think in pretty original ways too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think that we've talked specifically about the ways that she applied it in her books. So she's a great example if you guys are looking for like some original methods of it. But also the soulmate thing where like fate is so involved that these characters
Mm-hmm.
can't get away from each other is also forced proximity. The Horcrux thing with Harry Potter Voldemort, that's forced proximity. So just like you can also be really creative and like kind of metaphysical about it. It doesn't have to be physical proximity. So that's something
Mm-hmm.
else to think about if you're looking for a way to shake it up. Like read other examples outside your genre and then also think maybe think of the reverse. If you're thinking of like non-physical methods, think of physical methods and vice versa for forced proximity.
Yeah. I think too, a lot of times when I read books and I really like them, you like fantasize about them a little bit. You're like, what
Yeah.
direction is this going to go? Right. And I think a lot of my fantasies include putting them into forced proximity situations to see what would happen. Like
Yeah.
if they can't kill each other, if they're in a confined space, if this was their only option to work together or something.
Yeah.
And I, if you want to add that, or you're trying to kind of spice up a book that, you're just feel like it's missing something, think about the situations you would put characters in other books in and what might
Mm-hmm.
come out of that, and then create similar dynamics to that.
Yeah.
And then just put them in the forced proximity.
Yeah.
So that can be good. It's a good way, I think, to brainstorm what's going to happen next in your book too. Like put the characters in a forced proximity room in your head and see what they say to each other and what they
I think
do.
so too.
So it can also be a way to get yourself out of plot holes and writer's block and that kind of stuff, because
I agree.
it's productive to think through what they would do in different scenarios, to understand them as a character, to understand how they're going to drive the plot, plus how the plot's going to affect them. Because forced proximity is really this good balance of plot driven and character driven, because of course plot wise something has to happen that's out of at least the protagonist's control, probably both of their controls, but then they also have to make decisions within that scenario, so it's kind of a good balance of those two things as well. And so I think kind of imagining different scenarios like that can be a good way to get yourself out of if you write yourself into a corner to get yourself out of it.
Makes me mad.
Okay. Oh, it's okay. Is Ruby? Why are you mad at Ruby? You didn't pee or poop?
She peed, and then she ran straight to the gray water. I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, it's so gross. She's obsessed with it. She likes to drink the runoff that comes out of the kitchen sink. It's so disgusting.
Ew.
Yeah, it's so gross. Sorry. But no, I agree. And even if you aren't going to use that exercise in your writing, like you're like, but I don't want the trope, it's still a great thing to do to get to know your characters more. Any situation, any trope, putting your characters in it and then either writing it out or just thinking through will help you get to know them better. I mean, that's how you get to know the people in your life, is seeing how they respond to different situations. So put them in different situations, even if you don't need that situation for your book, just for you as the author. It will make a world of difference if you feel like you just don't really have a good handle on your characters' personalities, or you're still in development with them. That's the kind of stuff that can really push you over the edge and make you feel really confident in knowing who your characters are. And if you don't know your characters, you're going to have a really hard time writing them effectively and genuinely. And where you're going to have to go back and try to make them more realistic, which is a lot harder, I feel like, than just writing them as realistically as
that
possible
way from the beginning.
Yeah.
I do think forced proximity too sometimes gives that fan fiction feel, and I think that might be why, because a lot of it comes out of like this, like, well, what if they were forced into an inn together, or if they had to share a bed, or if they had to share a room at a boarding school.
There is so much forced proximity fanfic.
Yeah, and it kind of has that feel, and I wonder how many of like those TV shows with one episode where they're in forced proximity is just kind of the writers saying like, I guess this is what we'll do next because we don't really know how to explore this any further, and then something comes out of it and it really develops into something. Because when I say it's like fan fiction, I do mean that in like the best way. Fan fiction isn't always great, but I mean that positively here, where it's like kind of an indulging type of thing. But again, it really contributes to the plot. It doesn't usually waste space. You can do anything badly, I guess, but usually it's not a waste of space. It's usually a good way to get to know the characters. So I think a lot of people maybe try it because they're stuck, and then it gets them unstuck, and then that scene becomes kind of pivotal. So I wouldn't shy away from it just because it's common, because like we said, so many ways to do it. And it is an effective way to get to know the characters for you or the readers. So
no, I totally agree. Anything else on forced proximity?
I don't think so.
Sweet,
it's turning in kind of short. I feel like we should have more to say, but
it's just one trope. It's just I feel like it's a trope that is exactly what it says it is. So
yeah.
But what about writing updates? Do you have any writing updates?
A little bit. I went through, I think I talked last time, I was editing through my first book in the series again to just kind of shift some things around, and I did, and I really like it. At one point I cut like 3,000 words, and then I added 2,000 back in, so it's only like 1,000 less, but that's still an achievement.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
And I feel this way every time I edit this book. I just feel like it's in a really good place now, to where I can kind of breathe and move on to other things. Like it feels done, at least for now. But yeah, it was good. I kind of clarified some things and took out some extraneous things. So I feel good about it. It's not a lot, productive. But that's
Did you schedule your surgery yet so that we can plan a writer's retreat?
No, I won't do that probably till like mid-January when I have my appointment with the cardiologist. But yeah.
Okay. Ruby and I understand. Ruby's gonna come with us, so
yay.
Yeah, Ruby, because you're not going to be distracting at all, huh?
No.
Well, by then, hopefully, you'll be house trained, so you won't be nearly as distracting.
Yeah.
Big yawn. Cool. I did not get any writing done.
So because of the holidays, I assume.
Because of the holidays. Yeah, because of the holidays. And this girly girl is really good at taking up all of my extra free time at the moment. Because of the house training thing, which you know, because you have 2 puppies. So you have to like rush them out the door the second that they wake up from a nap or eat, or you just think that they have a weird look in their eye and you have to try and rush them outside.
They're kind of walking weird and you're like, oh no, what's happening?
Like, go outside. And then you take them and they don't go, and you bring them in, they immediately go inside and you're like,
that's not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. It was literally the opposite of what you're supposed to do. But so that's been that. And then the holidays, of course. And then mostly though the Three Musketeers. Trying to read that freaking book because I have to record on it with our sister podcast, That Pretentious Book Club. We're recording on it tomorrow. Yeah. We ended up needing to record on a Thursday instead of like a Saturday. So I had to finish it sooner than I had anticipated, which is fine. I was already behind on it. So it didn't really make that much of a difference listening to it on 2.5 or 2.8 speed,
Yeah.
But it's just so hard to get through that. And then I have to plan this campaign. There's always something, and the problem is like the Three Musketeers thing affects somebody else also. Same with the Dungeons and Dragons campaign, like it affects a whole group of people. So I feel like I do.
Big yawn.
There's a big yawn from Ruby. She's probably gonna start grunting at the microphone. Oh, I know, I hear you. She's such a whiner.
Yeah.
Sometimes she'll just in her sleep start whining. Sorry guys, they're just full of extraneous noise this episode on my end. There's like chairs moving and doors opening and phones going off. But anyways, so as soon as oh my goodness.
Dun,
Sorry,
dun, dun.
I'm very popular. My mom loves me. She's texting me.
I'm so popular. My mom talks to me all day.
Yeah, my mommy texts me because I'm popular. But yeah, so as soon as the DM campaign, is the Dungeons and Dragons campaign or whatever, is kind of at least mostly done, and I'm done reading the Three Musketeers, which I should hopefully finish today and tomorrow morning, then I'll get to write, because I have such ideas and I want to write my sci-fi book. Dang it.
Yes.
And I also got this bottle of wine that reminds me of my my masterpiece that's set in like a kind of like fantasy version of Venice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Pinot Grigio, and it's got like a map of Venice on the front of the
Ooh,
bottle, and it's like a green glass bottle, so it looks like a really classic wine bottle. So I literally bought it because I was like, this is gonna make me so happy and inspired for that book that I'm not even writing yet, but I'm going to, after you drink it, I'm going to save the bottle. I kind of want to work on it at our writing retreat. So, but that means I have to finish the sci-fi book first, which I think I can do. Yeah. After I finish the Three Musketeers and the D&D campaign. So yeah. Anyways, that's what I did and didn't do.
Yeah. That's good though. I mean, it's weird to write during the holidays. Like when I was editing, I was like, okay, I can finish this by, December 23rd, and then I can have Christmas. And then I didn't finish it. So I was like, okay, I can probably finish it by Christmas Eve. And then it's like midnight, Christmas morning. I'm like, okay, I can finish this before we go over to family's house for Christmas. And then I like totally didn't. So I'm like, okay, I'll finish it the day after Christmas. So, which I did, right. But it's just, I don't even know if it's like the fact that the weather's changing, so you're a little more tired, so you want to go to bed earlier or sleep in, or you're just not in the mood for whatever reason. I mean, today it was raining here, which is, I was like, do I read or write? And then I did neither because I don't know what to do. Yeah. So it's just a weird, like you said, the gray week. It's a weird week, and then the holidays take up a lot of time. So
yeah, it does.
Did anyone get any good writing done? I mean,
anyone at all? Because I didn't. Also, Javi's home right now, and he's not usually home, so like I want to spend all my free time with him. So that's what I've been doing instead of writing, which is okay because I can write hypothetically whenever. I mean, more whenever than I can hang out with Javi. So right. Also, again, I'm sorry with all the noise. I'm gonna cut out a lot of the Ruby barking, but the noises she's making while I'm speaking, I can't get rid of. Right. So you'll hear her fussing around trying to get out my door for literally no reason at all. She's crying for no reason, but
puppies,
yeah,
they do that.
Oh my goodness, what a whiny baby. she just put her little head in and went she's like, don't call me a whiny baby. Yeah, she does, and she also pees when she doesn't get paid attention to, so that's fun. Yeah, anyways, that's my writing update and complaints, and also another life update. So cool. Yeah, anything else you want to share with the listeners? No. Sweet. All right. Well, if you guys liked this episode, you guys can follow us on social media. We are on Instagram and TikTok. We are the Scripturient Society. You can also go and leave us a review below wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you liked it, if you wouldn't mind giving us 5 stars, that would be fantastic. We actually got an email from a listener recently who was very sweet and wonderful. So actually we might be collaborating with them soon. It's an author. So we'll keep you guys up to date on that. So lots of exciting stuff. If you guys email us at contact@storysirenstudio.com or you message us on social media, we will see it. We will reply. We definitely want to hear from you. If there's something that you guys want us to talk about on the pod, just let us know. Because we want to talk about what you want to talk about. You can also go to the Scripturientsociety.com and you guys can check out our merch. We still have a little bit of limited edition Christmas merch up. I know Christmas is over, but if you want to get it for next year, go for it because it is going to go away any day now. And then there's a bunch of other just stuff. If you are a writer or a reader, go check it out. It's a great way to support the pod and also to tell the whole world that you are proud of being a writer. I think that's everything that we've got for you guys. So until next week, keep writing.
And we'll see you on the next page.